Do you remember the feeling of waking up on a Saturday morning when you were 7? There were no scrolling, no notification, no bright screen captivating our attention, and definitely no algorithm telling us what to do and what to watch. It was only you, a box of colored pencils, a white page, and both of them looking at you from the other side of the room, trying to convince you to use them. And the convincing wasn't very hard. Creating back then was so easy. No distractions, you wouldn't compare yourself to others. It felt so simple. And somewhere along the way, you probably got something like this. By then, we traded color pencils for social media. But I don't believe that her brain stopped wanting to create, otherwise you wouldn't have clicked on this video. And obviously, if I make this video, it's because I feel kind of like you, which is why I wanted to start a sort of like phone recovery journal, trying to go back to that time when we were kids. It was so easy to create and we didn't think about scrolling on our phones because we didn't have any. The idea here is not to tell you to put your phone away. I don't think that's the right method. It has never been the right method in my head. The idea of this journal is also to remind all of us, including me, I'm part of the experiment in this, that a blank page is attractive. I've been thinking of how I can improve my life because I am sick of always scrolling on my phone for hours, and then I'll be like, oh, but I spent too much time on it and now I can't do this and I can't do that, so I better keep scrolling. And I lose my whole day on it. Let's check together how bad my screen time is. Is this a joke? This is a joke. This is not a joke. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. Whew. Apparently I need it even more than anybody. I've tried to read a few books to find ideas of what to do in this situation because I feel so lost. And if you're in the same situation as me, you probably feel lost too. I picked the ideas that I think makes the most sense to help us on this recovery together. At that point, you're helping me recover more than I'm helping you recover when I see 9 hours on my phone. But anyways, this journal is also to keep up on my progress of this phone recovery journal so that you guys know what works and what doesn't. So hopefully this video will help us to reconnect with that child who wasn't scared of a few colored pencils and a blank page. I know that when we think of recovery, most of the time we're going to think of, I need to stop using my phone, I need to deprive myself from my phone. But I don't think restriction is a good idea. I think the best way is to redirect ourselves towards things that we think are more attractive. We need to make art more attractive, and for this, it's good to make art more visible. I get this idea from Atomic Habits. I don't read a lot of self-improvement books, but I think good ideas would highlight in that book, including the one that if you want to set up a habit, you need to make it visible. And I think it's the same thing here. We need art to be visible. So for example, if you want to read more, the example that they gave in the book is you put a book on your bed like this when you go to bed, instead of putting it on your nightstand and being like, never mind, I'll read tomorrow, and you slide in your bed and fall asleep, or even worse, slide in bed and scroll on your phone. If it's on your bed, you have like a physical contact with it of like, okay, I have to put it away and it's already in your hand, so it's like, okay, let's read it. You have more chance of setting up the habit if you have like this physical connection to it. If I want to sketch more, then I have my sketchbook more available. If I want to write more, then I have my journal for writing more available. If you take pictures, then make your cameras more available. Whatever you do, make it more available than your phone. I'm really talking about art right now because it's what my content is about. You can use it to whatever you want to replace your screen time with. If it's sports, if it's actually, you know what, even if it's watching a movie or playing video games, because I do believe that watching a movie and playing video games is better than doom scrolling. I sometimes struggle watching a full movie because my attention span is cooked. Whatever you want to put in your life, make it more visible. This is also a good idea if you can to rearrange your space. I'm at a point in my life where I can't really rearrange my space for professional reasons. I can't really change the furniture as much as I want because it's not my house. But if you can, I would highly recommend to rearrange your space, which leads us to our second point, to go analog. It's kind of the trend on YouTube lately, and even on like social media in general, of going analog. Everyone goes back to journals. I don't think I can go fully analog because I do use my devices for the things that I create, so it's kind of hard for me to be like, no more phones, sorry, I'm gonna go live in the forest. The way I see it, and I've seen lots of people do it too, is one activity for one device. So even having a PS4 or like a DS is better. Like back then when we had a DS, yes, we would play a lot on it, but at least it was one thing for video games, right? It was not all the games you can have on your phones. That's really what I want to go for. Like I want to make sure that I have one notebook for each of the activity that I do. So a notebook for acting, a notebook for drawing, which probably will be my sketchbook, a notebook for writing. I don't want to have 100 games on my phone. I don't want to have 100 notes. Also because it helps you to keep track of your projects, which leads us to our next point, to have a clear idea of what to do. I think when we were kids, it was so easy to just sit down and do whatever. You wanted to be creative, you would be creative. When I was a kid, I was like, I want to write a book. I would run downstairs, pick a notebook, even though it was made for school, and I would start writing. I did not care about looking like a writer. I would do it. I would go to the printer, take a paper, and start drawing characters. We didn't really need to think of where we were going because we weren't scared of creating. We weren't as distracted. So it's like, oh, I'm bored. What am I going to do? Pick a paper and draw. Oh, I'm bored. What am I going to do? Pick a notebook and write. Today, with the distraction, I think it's good to not forget where you're going. Having a track of what I'm currently doing and what I have to do helps me stay focused, have my attention on one thing. Actually, I did experience that for a while and it did help me. So when I was planning my book, what I would do is I would have my computer and a notebook next to me. The notebook was only for writing and I would write all the things that I need to do, like make this character's storyline or find the main conflict or whatever key points I had, I would have them and I would write and I would work on them. And whenever an idea came up of like, oh, I need to work on this, instead of stopping the activity I'm in and going on to a next one, I would write a key point and be like, I'll do it after when I have time. Like this, you don't lose your flow. I think it's really helpful to not lose your flow, and knowing where you're going by having this notebook next to you really helps. Because I really think it's okay that her mind wanders everywhere. It's how her brain works. It's just in the world we live in with so much distraction, we really need to stay focused on one action. And having this list also helps you to have a door still open for the next time you're gonna create. Like this, you dread less the act of creating because it's like, oh, it's fine. I have my to-do list. You're not gonna be scared of this white page because you know what you're gonna have to do. One of the reasons also why we are so scared of starting is because we compare ourselves a lot more than when we were kids. So the next point is, don't compare yourself, because when you think about it, when we were kids, we would pick up a paper and start drawing. Today, if you take them back out of your drawer, it was not like perfect art, which is normal, but you weren't scared. There was no expectations. You didn't compare yourself to other artists. So it was way easier to just like pick up something and do something because you weren't scared. There was no expectation. I think we need to bring back this thing of there's no expectations. And that's something I did last night. I filmed this video once and after I felt so drained. I really didn't find the energy to do anything else, and I didn't like the video I filmed. That's why I'm filming it back today, and honestly I'm enjoying it so much more right now. Like, oh my goodness. Anyways, and I was like, maybe I just need to do something easy because I don't have the energy to do more. And it's not perfect, but I came up with this, and it's simple, easy to do. I just picked a paper, black paint, and I did it. If you look closely, it's not perfect. There's like lines everywhere that go like all around, but I did something, and it just feels so good to be like, I sat down, did something easy like I would do as a kid with no expectation for it to be perfect. And it's not about the art looking good, it's more about me feeling better and less drained. So obviously it didn't bring back all my energy. I wasn't like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna change the world. But still, there was this thing of like, I'm more at peace, and I went to take my shower and I went in bed and it felt much better. It's the kind of art that we need to be able to bring back to. Even though you want to make art your work and you need it to be pretty good, you still have to find some time to create in a way that you have no expectations, because it helps so much. Like, don't compare yourself to others. Be able to, when you take a white page, to just do whatever without thinking of making it good. You just have to do it. And it's also way healthier. You can't just keep creating all the time, even if your energy is not there, which is our next point. You need to respect your level of energy. You don't want to overwork yourself when you create at a point where you don't want to create after, because it's just too much, because you don't have the energy anymore. It's like, you don't want that for yourself. The reason why doom scrolling is so bad is because we do it too much, right? Because it's so easy, we'll do it, but her brain doesn't have the energy of like receiving all the emotions that those videos give us. It's the same thing with creating. You don't want to create when you don't have the energy to do so. For example, if you go for low energy hobbies, I'd say like reading a cozy book, because sometimes reading can be a little challenging. If you pick a book that looks like young adult, it's so much better to just sit down and enjoy the book. It can also be just coloring. Coloring feels way less stressful than being facing a white page, because you have the lines and you just need to color it in way better. I even think that watching something, if it's something that you chose to watch, it's a hobby in a way. Like, we need to bring back watching movies as a hobby, as something fun to do, not just to consume something because you don't know what to do. If we go to medium energy hobbies, I'd say anything that takes you a little bit more energy. So I'm thinking like maybe just starting a sketch. You don't have to finish it, just sketch a little character, or do the things that I did of just like painting without thinking. When you have a little bit of energy and you want to be creative, but you don't have enough energy to start a huge project and work on something long. And on high energy hobbies, I'd consider things that are more on the long run, I'd say. So for example, like learning a language, all of those hobbies are like, you need like motivation over time. So it's like whenever you work on it, it's good to have enough energy. If you learn by yourself, it can be a little challenging sometimes. It's again, this thing of you need balance. Over doom scrolling is not good. Over creating is not good. You really need this balance. So it's not about always creating, and it really isn't. Actually, I'm 100% sure that it's not about only creating. I don't want to believe that. I think it's also about knowing when you want to interact with other people's art. I remember I had this French teacher back in middle school, I think. He said, if you want to be a writer, you need to be a reader. What his point was is every book that has been written has been inspired by whatever work the author read before. You know this thing of traveling in time, you travel in time and you change one thing and it destroys everything. I think it's the same thing with book of like, if you take, I don't know. You know what? I have myself here. Let's take, girl, I honestly don't know. Don't ask me to choose when there's too many things around me because I start stressing out. Here, I like this book. If you pick this book and you go back in time and you erase all the books that exist before this one will not exist. So it's like, we need to experience other people's art. It's part of being creative. It gives you so much indication on who you are and what you want to create. It doesn't have to be on social media. It can be if that's what inspires you. Just try to, again, do it in certain like measure. But you still need to watch movies. You still need to play video games. You still need to interact with other people's art. You can't be creative without listening to other people's voices. Because being creative does not have to always be active. You don't have to always create and create and create. I know we live in a capitalist world that tells us that if you're not productive, you're not valuable. You need to forget that. You need to remember behind every artist is a human being. You can't forget that. And it includes you and me. You also need to know your limits. I've recently read a book called Ikigai. It talks about this Japanese concept, the Japanese secrets to a long and happy life. So it's kind of like, it sounds cheesy, like long and happy life, like peace and love. What I took back from it is they mentioned this idea of being 80% full. So basically it's this thing of you should stop whenever you're 80% full. They first mentioned it with food. So basically when you eat, you don't want to eat at the point where you feel completely full because all you'll want to do is sleep and not do much. And they bring back the idea later on around art and any activity that you're doing of it's good to stop when you're 80% full so that you don't get sick of whatever you're doing, right? It avoids you from draining yourself. It's good to have measure with whatever you enjoy doing so that you're not sick of it. And it also helps to create habits because one of the key points of creating habit is also to make it repeatable. If you want it to be repeatable, make sure that whenever you end the action, you still want to create for next time. You still have a little bit of drive so that whenever you're not in the act of creating, you can still have this little drive in the back of your head that helps you to start and creates more drive to whatever you're going to work after on. It's kind of like, you know, plants. If you don't, actually, I don't know why I'm talking about this. I don't even know anything about plants. Forget this. I was about to give an example on plants, but I realized I kill all my plants anyways. I'm really still learning all of this. That's why I'm doing this journal. It's really like, oh, let's sit down and try to improve myself. And putting myself on social media also helps me because it holds me accountable. But doing this first step of just filming and trying to be creative and get out of like doom scrolling is already a good start for me. And we need to remember, we don't need to create any masterpiece. Because when we were kids, we didn't care about creating masterpieces. The first step is just to pick a pencil or pick a brush or whatever you're going to use to create before you pick up your phone. It's time to swap social media with the color pencil. This week, what we should start doing is whenever we're on our phone, the moment you realize you're doom scrolling, you put your phone down and you force yourself to at least 15 minutes of creating. You know what? Even 5 minutes of creating if that is already a challenge for you. Already been 2 days that I set myself the rule of paint something easy and have no expectations, and it's so much easier. I'm having so much fun, and it really feels like when I was a kid and I could just like draw whatever whenever I wanted. This is the second one. I know I showed you in the video the one with the little flowers. I made it a little better. It's now on my wall, but it feels just so good to not have any expectations, not compare myself to others, and like this is way less stressful and do whatever I want. If you ever tried this little week challenge, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Also, if you have any ideas on how to make our phones less attractive than art, don't hesitate to tell me too in the comments, just so that I can have like some roads of improvement, if it makes sense. Definitely follow if you're interested in following this journal. If you want, I'm also challenging myself to add little habits to stay away from my phone on Instagram if you want to follow me there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you next Friday.